thank you to our 3 sponsors for supporting our podcast. Johnny Russell's Art Caterers and Milltown Pies, who offer fantastic catering services, Alexander Grace Law, who provide modern and client-led legal services, and SBE Furnishings, who offer high-quality furnishings and electrical items at fantastic prices.
Well,
Do I look like my dad yet?
I can give him a chat, and because of my bent legs, Jez, I should have had calipers, and I have a very flat head, so I should have had a helmet as well. I mean, can I be any more awkward than I usually am? You can cut that out. And then Johnny replied with, "What you on about? Your real name's Graham."
Order! Send more house to save the house! Come on, the house!
Right, good evening all, and welcome to another episode of the Housecast. Here we are, another recording that we're all getting together to do. Did one last week, which was very entertaining. Went on for quite a while, and I'm sure you'll all have enjoyed it and heard it, the old Frank Entwistle one. Things haven't changed a great deal. We're still in lockdown around our areas, and we're trying to get a few more guests on. So this evening we've got a guest. It wasn't that difficult in getting him on. I think he got coaxed on by his flat-headed younger brother who needs calipers. So we've got Joe Martin. Joe, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks, Jez. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I don't mean guests. I don't mean Joe's the guest. Sorry, listeners. I don't mean Joe's the guest. He's co-hosting it with me. So, you've been up to much? I know you're still on your course. How's that going?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's the closest I've been to any humans for a while.
Yeah.
And obviously with social distancing, whatever. But yeah, I've been on a course. Had a fall last week.
Right.
Had a fall when I was out running. I slipped on a grate, and I hurt my hip.
Hang on. Did you say you slipped on a grape?
on a grate. On a grate.
On a grate. Sorry. I thought you said you slipped on a grate. Oh, that's good that your basic wicket-keeping course is going well. I hope you get through it and you pass okay. The other one, we've got another great host who's on with us this evening, going back in time and a legend of the club, got trophies galore. It's Mr. Joe Beneduce. How are you doing, Joe?
All right, Jess, thank you. Are you okay?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, quite busy at the moment. A few bits and bats of things going on and selling loads of sweets, so that's working well. So we'll move on to our guest. Cricketer who I still think seems a really young lad, but he's played for the club for donkey's years. A real stalwart of the club, has still got many, many great years ahead of him. Top bloke, tries his nuts off all the time, and a very, very talented cricketer. It's Joe's brother, Paddy Martin. How are you going, Paddy?
Very well, thank you, Jez. Thanks for having me on.
It's great. We're glad. I really appreciate you coming on. Joe mentioned it, a few months ago about getting you on, and then we were going through a list of guests, and then myself and Dooch and Matt Stanley said, well, let's get Paddy on. That'll be a really good episode. We can listen to, to how you've developed at the club. But your brother said you didn't want you on. But anyway, we've managed to persuade him and get you on. So, Paddy, what have you been up to for the last few months? How's lockdown been treating you in winter?
Not too bad. I've been at school working, so it's fairly busy.
Right, okay.
Still. Trying to dodge the virus there. Best I can.
Must be difficult that if because your kids are around you.
Yeah, very much so.
They've got a lot of things in place. Does it feel safe? Is it something that you're comfortable with, or?
Yeah, I'm quite lucky. I can sit in my office and just keep away from them.
Right.
But there's a few cases every week, so
yeah.
Whether they're getting it at the school, I don't know, but
yeah,
hopefully it's not much longer.
No, it's difficult. But I mean, I do think it's good that the kids are going back and they try and get back some sort of normality. I think we mentioned on the last one, Blaise and Lindsay have had it, haven't they? But thankfully they haven't had really severe symptoms, so I think they've got through it. I chatted to Blaise not long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that's good that you're getting back in there. Are you doing any training? You keep yourself fit for the season?
Not yet.
No.
I was playing golf before this lockdown.
Right.
Playing on Sunday, hopefully.
Right. Yeah.
Snow permitting, I believe. Yes.
Right. Okay.
So that'll be it until probably January. Then I might think about it.
Right. So you don't do much training, do you? Because your brother does quite a lot of running, doesn't he?
He does running. I have a very much hate relationship with running.
Right. Oh, I thought you were going to say with Joe.
Well, that's also true, but more running. So I'll go through periods, Jez, of running for 2 or 3 weeks and then sack it off and then do it a few months later.
Boring, isn't it? It's so boring.
It is boring.
It's not boring. It's methodical and it takes your mind off things. For somebody that, being left alone with their own thoughts isn't a great thing. Going out running is a real way of making them sort of linear. I don't mean they're like weird, bad thoughts. It just means I have a lot of thoughts that need arranging.
I'm hopeful, Jez, that football will be back starting this weekend, so I can get back to playing that as well.
Right, okay. So you would be. What's the amateur scene like in Burnley now? Is there obviously no football being played?
No. Our team is not great.
Is it not?
But I enjoy it, so can't complain.
Exactly. No, you've got to keep, get you out and about, get some fresh air in, and keeps you fit for the cricket season.
Have you got anybody in that team who we might know? That the listeners might know? Anybody in that team apart from yourself?
Probably just Ben Utley.
Ben Utley, what's he like as a footballer? Some Ben Utley's footballing style and ability up for us.
On the floor.
On the floor. He dives a lot.
That's where he spends most of his time, yeah.
Is that literally and metaphorically?
Yes, both.
Isn't he good when he stands on his feet?
He's all right. He just regularly confronts the biggest guy on their team, really. And then ends up led on the floor and it all starts again.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting, Paddy. Right, we'll go on to your cricket career, Paddy. Let's have a little discussion about your early days when, I can certainly remember you and your brother and your sister and your mum and dad coming down. Your uncle Shez was down there. I take it was just a given that from, almost, as young as probably none, that you'd be coming down to the Lowerhouse and that you would be, following in your Uncle Ian and Uncle David and Michael played down there. Just tell us what you remember about those early years if you've been down to the cricket club before we move on to the junior sections.
Well, obviously, as you said, Shez played. My granddad helped a bit with the ground, obviously with Jeff as well. Yeah. My mum and dad did the tees for a while for the second team. Yeah. And then obviously Michael were playing as well. Yeah. So strong family connection really, and I can only ever remember being down there. I don't really remember. No. Sort of. That's the first time I went down. I can just remember always being there really.
Yeah. What's the age difference between you and Joe?
2 years.
Right, okay. Because I'm racking my brain. I don't know, dude. Can you remember when, little Joe Martin used to be James Bond and being in his dinner suit? You can remember that?
Yeah, he didn't just have James Bond, Jez. Don't get tunnel visioned by this. He did have a couple of other outfits that he wore as well.
Oh, go on.
The ones that stick in mind, Paddy will be able to help us with this, but I do remember him having a maroon blazer, a West Indies style maroon blazer. But he also used to dress up as a woman.
All right. Well, that's interesting.
He used to have a dress that he wore. Very strange
Right.
job.
That's inaccurate, to say the least. But I dressed up as Brian Lara, Jez. I used to put my whites on, my West Indies shirt, my maroon blazer, and my West Indies sun hat. And I did used to come as Brian Lara, but I did used to come as James Bond and a mix of Michael Ball and Michael Bolton when I used to sing on the steps.
Michael Ball was the best one, Jez, because at home we used to have sort of a knee-high toy box, which would be Michael Ball's, in inverted commas, stage.
All right, yeah.
So Joe used to have a pair of, he'd probably be only 19 at the time, but he had a pair of...
I had a pair of Cuban heels.
Yeah, but he had a pair of button-up jammers. So he'd wear the button-up shirt with a tie, and then have my mum's high heel boots on. And
oh God,
that's true. And then at this time, he'd gone through his phase of being at his tap dancing lessons. So he'd be singing his Michael Balls with the what did he use as his microphone?
I had a microphone.
Yeah, he had his own microphone. So he used to have his microphone in one hand, and you could hear the banging of his boots on the wooden toy box as he was belting out his Michael Ball favourites.
So who'd be watching him then?
No one really.
I'm going to. You just carry on about your business in the house.
Yeah. Because it was never not normal for him to be dressed up or something. We went to the James Bond Museum in Leeds.
It was Royal Armouries Museum.
Whatever it was, sorry.
James Bond Museum's in Keswick.
But he was dressed as James Bond. And he had his toy James Bond gun with him.
Right.
He got out in the museum, which caused a bit of a stir because the security guards came over because it weren't as stringent then. There were none of the orange stuff on front of them to show the toys. So it could have been real. Yeah. So there's 7-year-old Joe dressed as James Bond with security guards running around him.
Right. The reason I bring it up, and I don't want this to be about Joe, really, it was because I was wondering, what I remembered about you, and your mum and dad and sister at the same time, because Joe just obviously hogged the limelight. I'm just wondering whether, Susan and Graham should have been reported to the Child Protection Unit at some stage, having a 7-year-old James Bond with a semi-automatic going into a museum.
Well, if you can imagine if it were nowadays, it'd be all over TikTok and Instagram and all sorts. They probably would have got picked up by police by now because somebody would have seen it. Yeah,
without a doubt. And Joe possibly could have been shot by the local marksman, the police marksman, who mistook him for a mass murderer. So anyway, Paddy, what were you doing then around that time when Joe was making a fool of himself?
I've been playing cricket then, so I started when I was 6.
Right, okay. What's your memories around that?
Well, I were obviously down there during the games and stuff at weekends.
Yeah.
I'd got my first set of pads for Christmas one year. On my birthday, I'm not too sure. And I was just playing on the side in front of the club room.
With?
Probably my dad. And then Jeff came over because I got my pads on wrong. And just so the padding that goes around your shins, it used to be 2 like belts sort of thing, and I'd put my legs through those and got them round the back of my legs.
Bless.
So Jeff came over and sorted them out, and then invited me down on a Wednesday night.
Brilliant.
So I think that was just before Stan had taken over, but I might be wrong.
That's what year would that have been?
97, something like that.
Right, yeah, it would have been around that time, weren't it, when Stan started taking over, maybe a little bit later. So you came through. You were coming into the latter end of the old academy with the practicing on the outfield, and probably not a lot of organisation, but a lot of willingness and great volunteers. And then Stan's career's coming to an end. He's got his dodgy knees and he's finishing. What was it like? Can you remember what it was like at the early days of that, the setting up of that? You know, the junior section changing completely as it had been for 20 years. What was it that like?
Yeah. Well, I went on Stan's level 2 course as one of the kids who were being coached at the time.
All right, yeah.
And that's where we met Nigel, I think.
Right.
So obviously Nigel came in and started from there. I can just remember the training used to be at the Thompson Centre. And
in winter it were at the Thompson Centre.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. The winter nets would be there, and there were probably 40 there then, which compared to a couple of years before was massive.
Yeah.
So I would have been 8, 9, something like that. Kept getting put in the under 15s net, which I didn't really like. So I've regularly feigned an injury to stay in my own net.
Paddy. And you were an off spinner from start, were you?
No, I started off bowling rapid, Jez.
All right.
But I didn't have any cricket boots really for my first 2 or 3 years playing, so it was proving a bit difficult to stay on my feet in these sort of wet conditions.
Right.
And then one of the coaches was called John Briley, who's done a lot of work at various clubs. Maybe you played against him, Jez, I don't know.
Hey, Todd.
Yeah. And he asked me why I was bowling pace, because I'm only ever going to be 5'8".
Right.
And I am currently 5'8" until I grow a bit more.
Right.
So I started bowling spin from then and tried to ever since.
Yeah. As a kid, Jez, as a kid, he had very heavy feet. So you've heard of the Whispering Death. Stan labelled him Thundering Death when he was running in.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
The other issue with that was it was because I had trainers on. So if they got a bit wet, they were flip-flopping all over my feet.
Yeah, right, I see.
And linked to the pad thing as well, Jez, there was an incident at Salisbury where he was batting and running between the wickets, and one of his pads fell off. And rather than going to get back in, he turned back and got his pad on and we run out.
The bails came off as I got my second strap back on.
And you just shouted, "No!"
Yeah, I got told off after that game, actually, I think, off Stan.
I bet. So how was your batting? What were you? How did you find the batting?
The first shot that I learnt off Jeff was a forward defence, and probably until this day I've still stuck with that.
Yeah.
So I was very stodgy, as I still am. My first game, I got bowled out my first game, missed a forward defence, so...
Right, okay.
But I did get a wicket in my first game at church.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Right. Right.
And it's quite good because all the players, I was probably 8, I think, 7 maybe.
Right.
But everyone else in the team was older.
And were that under 13s, do you think?
That would have been under 11s.
Under 11s,
yeah.
Okay. They were going then, yeah.
So it's quite good now when you're playing to see all the ones who were playing at that time just watching on the side, and they've still got some affinity to the club.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And then you've obviously gone through the different age groups. Who was, we've had this discussion with Dutch before about the Rugrats and the different groups of people, because people come through in groups. So who would have been in your group of junior cricketers that we know? Or
there wasn't anybody really my year group at school, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Matt Walker was a year below. So I played a lot of cricket with Matt from a young age when he eventually moved from Burnley. And then above me were Lewis, Sean, Ben, another couple of years older than that.
Yeah, right, okay.
And then obviously lower down was Joe and his age group, people like
Johnny.
that.
Yeah.
Johnny.
Yeah.
What about Max Howells? Where did he fit into that?
Max was the year below me, and I think Max came at under 15s, Joe, would that be right?
Okay.
Yeah, so he
All right.
he was probably under 15s when he came.
Right, brilliant. So,
Didn't see much of it.
going through that era, many trophies, many great performances. You want to tell us about?
As a junior,
Yeah.
not really.
No.
We'd never particularly had a really strong side because the better juniors were Joe's age, so 2 years below, didn't really play in my age group.
Right.
And then Ben and his age group were obviously a bit older, and Scott were a bit older.
Yeah.
So I was kind of in the middle of the two.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Two packs, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've gone through the junior sections there. What about when you started making inroads to getting into the senior sides? You remember that?
Yeah. My debut for the thirds, I think, was against Haslingden.
Right.
I don't think I may have bowled actually, but my first ball I got hit square in the chest off a beamer.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and that is all I can remember from the game.
A fast bowler or
Yeah, seam bowler straight in my chest.
Did you cry?
No, just carried on.
Right. Oh, that's strong. Yeah, that's good.
I'd learnt off Jeff.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Just turn the other cheek. So that's you. Who was in the thirds then? Who was in the side? Do you remember?
Good question. Stephen Waite played.
All right.
If you can remember Steve. Decent bowler actually, Steve. Great question, Jeff. I can't really.
Who were
remember.
captain?
It would have been Adam, I think.
Right.
So my first few games would have been under Adam.
Right.
Sure.
Okay.
Or Steve, because when Adam started playing in the seconds more, Steve was captain.
Right. I can't think of what senior players would have been in that.
Kieran Tarr
would have been. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, people too long ago, Jess.
You can't
Jess,
remember.
I've got a scorecard up here from. Yes, I have. As part of that team, there was Adam, Paddy, and Ryan Clegg. Maddie.
Ryan Clegg, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Maddie Hussain, Hawkey, Paddy Howley, Kieran Ty, Mickey Lee, Steve Waite, and Lewis Smith, the wicketkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Pete Smith's a big podcast fan.
Oh, good.
Pete Smith.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right.
But Smitty got hit in his eye with a bale pea. Can you remember that?
Yes, at Longridge.
Yeah. Good lad, Smitty.
Yeah, he still comes on to watch, which is good to see.
So you've got yourself in the thirds there a little bit. You're getting a few performances. And then when did you start pushing in the seconds? How old were you then?
So I think it was the year after I may have played my first game. Or was it that year?
2005.
My first game for the seconds, I think, was Nicky as captain in a cup game. In a cup game that ended up going into a Monday. Because it had obviously run out of time on the Sunday.
Yeah.
I can't really remember it, Jess, to be honest. The game.
No.
But I remember Nicky being captain.
I have the scorecard.
Great.
Go on then.
What year was that, Joe?
So it was 2005. Nicky was captain. Rottenstall got 210.
So I would have. I think I'd have made my third team debut that year as well.
Potentially. There's no third 11 fixtures, unfortunately.
Because I can only remember playing with the Worsley Cup winners on the shirt.
Right, fair enough. And we lost that game. Nicky was captain. He got 8, batting at 7. Paddy, you got 3, caught and bowled. We got 158. You didn't bowl.
Yeah, I think we were really short. Hence why Nicky was captain.
I don't remember Nicky captain at second 11.
I think it was just genuinely a game where we'd no players. And they needed someone to captain.
Because Nicky had stopped playing in 2000 he didn't play in 2004. I don't think he played 2003.
I can remember him playing might have been captain in some third 11 games. Because I can remember him batting with Zishan.
Right.
Zishan Malik.
Crikey, who'd have thought it?
Who'd have thought it? They were the players that I used to do the tins for. So I did those for a few years. I did the Worsley Cup final.
All right.
2004. And then a couple of years before that and probably only another year after that, really.
Yeah.
But for 4 or 5 years before that, I'd done it, which I really enjoyed.
What's your memories around doing the tins for the Worsley Cup final?
It's all a bit of a blur, to be honest. But the only thing I remember is Phil shouting at me at the end because I was that eager to get onto the field. I was spinning the tins as fast as I could to get them off, and he was shouting because people wanted to take a picture and look at it. Whereas
who scored the final?
Good question. It might have been. I couldn't tell you. Kaz, maybe.
Right.
Caroline, perhaps.
Cleggy did it for a few years, Pete.
Yeah, it might have been Ryan Clegg. I can't remember the scorer.
No, I can't. I mean, I'm sure someone on this podcast, one of us four, will have that scorebook. I'm sure, and Stan's looking for it.
Yeah.
I've only got one, as you know, and it's not that year. Somebody will know who scored the final, though. So if when this finally goes to air, can someone get in touch and tweet us and tell us who scored the Worsley Cup final, please?
So I remember spinning the tins round and just sprinting down the stairs as fast as I could to get on the field, and then obviously try and join in with the celebrations.
And you remember it vividly, or?
I just remember getting shouted at vividly, Jez.
Yeah, Phil. Yeah, bless him. So you start developing yourself into a regular second team cricketer. What some memorable games have you got around the second team? Some funny moments or some good performances.
Just before you start, Matt Marquis on his podcast did say that your collections paid for their end of season trips on more than one occasion.
Yeah,
you must have some performances in there.
Yeah, 2007 I had a really good year. Runs and wicket. I only played half the games, but I may have been second run scorer and leading wicket taker. But I'd been my first team debut that year, so I was in and out of the side. But whenever I did play, I seemed to do really well. I think we finished second that year under Paul. And from a personal point of view, that was the best season I'd ever had.
Yeah.
And probably ever will have. I think I'd nearly 500 runs after I'd only played 13 games that year.
Yeah, 431 runs
and
after 13 games.
30 odd wickets.
Yeah.
And then I was promised an Xbox game at the end of the season from all the collections, and I'm not hoping it'll come this week at some point.
And everyone else upped it. Everyone else thanked all your collections.
Yeah. So I'd have been 16. They were all going to Blackpool, I think.
Did you not go? Just to
drinks? I was promised a Xbox game, which I was far more interested in, Jez.
Right, I see. So can you remember any of the performances? You obviously did very well with bat and ball. Do you remember any that...
I can remember. I don't know if that the season after it might have been. I was on 80 odd with a couple of overs left. Obviously, thinking this was my big chance to get 100.
Yeah.
I was in with Matt Marquis, and he said, "Right, if you don't get a 1 off this, if you don't get a 6 off this ball, you're not going to get it. So we'll not bother."
Right.
And I didn't get it, Jez.
No.
P, that was 2008, and that coincided with my debut as well.
Excellent. I don't remember that.
We batted a long time together. You got 89, I got 51.
Would have been one for the purists, I think, that, Joe. If it was
what year was that, Joe?
2008. You can find it in the Michelinus games.
What games?
I'm not good with words.
Michelinus.
Sounds French, that, Joe. Michelle's anus.
But I would describe our partnership as turgid.
Yeah, fair.
And then the week after, I obviously got picked again the week after. Sorry to make this about me, but I got picked the week after, and after we'd come in from the game, Dooch didn't know I'd been picked, and he asked me how I felt about getting 50 and then being dropped the week after.
I think, Jez, the first game of that season was Church in 2007. I think we got 260 or something like that, only one wicket down.
Right.
Phil Edmondson got a big 100. I got 70 odd, and then I think I got 5 wickets as well.
You did?
And there were 2 or 3 games where I got 50 and 5 wickets, which obviously not happened much since. I was in between. I was good enough for the second, obviously, but needed in the first, and I don't think I was quite ready for the first team.
Yeah, and so what year would that have been?
2007.
7. Right,
It was a really wet season as well, that one.
Right.
So I felt I was competing in the second team fairly well.
Yeah.
Probably should have stepped up to the first team, but didn't realise it was my opportunity, really.
Yeah. Can you remember much? Because obviously, the side was going from strength to strength, from the cup victory in 2004 to 5 to 6 to 7. You remember much about Paddy and his ability, and whether you thought he was going to make it in the first team or not?
Well, not from his first team exploits, because he didn't really get to do much, like he said, at that early stage. But obviously, we all knew from being around the club about Paddy and Joe and how good they were both going to be. And it was only really a matter of time. But like he said, he was in that unfortunate spot, really, of being excellent in the seconds, but you get called up to the first team and you don't get to do much. We've discussed it at length, haven't we? That and sometimes you just have to, sit on your hands and just wait for the right moment.
I was actually fairly lucky because we had a great captain in Finchy, and I think I opened the batting in the first team 4 or 5 times. But again, I was probably too naive to realise that was my chance to step up, and just thought, I'm just filling in this week. It doesn't matter what happens.
Right.
You played 11 games that year.
Yeah.
How old would you have been?
16. I think I
you
opened
were tiny, weren't you? You were
Yeah.
very small for 16, weren't you?
Yeah. And I've opened I opened against Burnley as well at Burnley.
Right.
I got 6, I think, and I wasn't ready to open. Well, I didn't think I was anyway.
Yeah.
So that made it a bit tricky going up into the first team.
Yeah. And when you think the side, some good amateurs as well then, there's a good side.
Yeah, yeah.
There are a lot of good players, and we were obviously going places then. So Finchy was captain 2007, 2008, on and off, and walked away, came back on and off, and then came back again. What you say was an interesting to play under Finchy as captain. What do you mean by that?
I wouldn't know how to describe Finchy's captaincy. I can just remember him. The problem with Finchy was he was probably at that time our best bowler, and probably also our best batter.
Yeah.
Other than the Bleds and the Pro.
Dooch.
Andy was captain, and it's Finchy. So that just made it. I think it was just all a bit too much for him.
Right.
But I love Finch to pieces. So if he were captain for 10 years, I'd still be playing under him.
Gordon, send Morehouse to save the house.